Good afternoon, kids! For today's topic, we will have our storytelling about the technology in alternative delivery system. Are you ready to listen, kids? Okay, let's start. In the town of Transylvania, people need to practice of blended learning. Some people ask, what is the definition of blended learning? Many people define it in different ways. But, you know what, kids? There is one people who only define it perfectly. So he defined that the blended learning is an approach to education that combines online educational materials and opportunities for interaction online with traditional place-based classroom methods. Also, according to educational technologies, a practitioner of blended learning, this authority would like to view blended learning as a combination of strategies and approaches in the process of teaching and learning using web-driven instructional resources. So, kids, there are three categories of web-based instruction. Namely, first is the augmented. So here are the example of augmented. The second one is the blended. And lastly, the online learning web-based instruction. In the case of blended learning, this teaching approach comes in four models. So, Horn and Staker of 2014 came up with the following graphic. This visual representation of blended learning. The graphic illustrates the combination of brick and mortar classroom, representing the face-to-face instruction with blended learning. Okay, kids, it further shows the four models blended learning, namely rotational model, flex model, a la carte model, and the enriched virtual model. So here are the some video presentation or a short video presentation about the four models blended learning.
The majority of blended learning programs resemble one of the four models I'll describe in this video, and they include the rotation, the flex, a la carte, and enriched virtual. Now the rotation model includes four submodels, one of which is the flipped or upside down classroom, and I'll describe that in another video.
Besides that, under the rotation model are the other four sub-rotation models, namely station rotation, lab rotation, flipped classroom, and individual rotation. Okay, kids, that's the end of the story of blending learning. So now, let's proceed to Teacher Kian, and she will tell more about the story of two types of online communication. Enjoy! Bye!
Hello everyone, my name is Kian Joyce Patron and I have a story to tell. Do you want to hear a story? Great! So it's all about the two types of online communication and the three forms of online interactions. So are you ready? Great! Once upon a time, in the year 2015, Mr. Wenner defines that the communication as a matter of exchanging message between men and the machines, between machines and the men, and machines and machine. The communication is a driving force in the online learning. There are two types of communication that takes place in the virtual learning environment, namely the asynchronous and the synchronous communication. We are living in the era of constant digital communication. With the tap of button, we can easily share our insights and collaborative with the people all over the world. But there's a cost. We can easily distracted and lose our focus. This is why quality communication requires intentionality. It helps to think about distinction between the asynchronous and the asynchronous communication tools. The synchronous communication is challenging and demanding type of communication because it takes place in real time. The synchronous means communicating and doing specific tasks at the same time. In online learning, this type of online communication might be a video conference, live chat, or a phone call. Asynchronous communication is opposite to synchronous communication. The asynchronous communication does not happen in real time and it is usually calls for use of discussion forum tools or the other tools in learning management system. Online teachers and students can post learning activities and can retrieve the message or direction posted in the forum anytime because asynchronous communication is associated with the learning anytime, anywhere. Both asynchronous and synchronous communication has disadvantages and advantages. The synchronous communication is way faster and more dynamic than the asynchronous. It's great for active participation and interactive discussion, but it can lead to frequent interruption and distractions. No need to schedule, which means you can go at your own pace with a fewer distractions. It works well when internet connection is stable or when the participants are in different time zones. It also allows the permanent record of communication. However, the asynchronous doesn't work well when you need to address issues in the moment, and it has less interactions between the students and the teachers. Next is the story of the three forms of online interactions. The interaction plays a crucial role in online learning. Murray and Kersley stated that active learning will not take place in online environment, as the interaction is deliberately planned and teachers encourage it. Teachers to students interactions. These forms of interaction takes place when the online teachers conducts an open discussions with the student using the online conference like Google Meet, Zoom, or ClassIn. It requires a real-time communication and therefore it is asynchronous communication. If this interaction is to serve distant learning, it should be named virtual classroom like what we have today. The students to content interaction refers to the time that the learners spend interacting with the first content like textbook, PowerPoint lecture presentation, web pages, discussion forum, or links. This interaction takes place only between the students and the content without the teachers. Students to students interaction is perhaps the most important three forms of interaction. This is according to Murray, 1898. This online interaction takes place between and among the online students. By the use of online collaborative learning activities, problem solving, case-based instruction, and other learning tasks provides the students the opportunity to interact among themselves and learn from each other.
Hello everyone, I am Hazel Faith Sobel and I will be talking about the other forms of interaction. Once upon a time, Mori, 1989, identified the three types of interaction that shapes the learning process. Another type of it is the learner interface interaction, which describes the interaction between the learner and the tools needed to perform the required task. While interaction has been shown to be of the vital importance in distance learning, interaction becomes crucial into the context of online teaching more than traditional face-to-face. Using tablets, smartphones, computers, and interactive software, we sought to exploit learner interface interaction, encouraging students to interact with their technological tools while continuing to interact with content, instructor, and learners. Next is the vicarious learning. It is a way of learning that allows individual to learn from the experience of others. It is a conscious process that involves sensing, feeling, and empathizing with what people are doing and taking notes and evaluating. Rather than direct, hands-on instructors, vicarious learning is derived from indirect sources such as hearing and seeing. Examples of indirect sources include when an individual sees or hears a live situation, watches a video, listens to a story, or reads a book or images situation. Implementing a vicarious learning approach in any learning environment is an effective strategy for expanding personal and professional knowledge. So this approach is based on the idea that individuals pick up new information and learn from seeing others' experiences. So first is easy to obtain experiences. Seeing or listening to other experiences helps you to understand new experience patterns and behaviors. It is also relatively fast and easy to obtain information on a new experiences. So vicarious learning equips you with the unique experiences that have either positive or negative effects. Second, it takes risk out of the equation. Vicarious learning helps you gain experience without actual participation. Example, you can watch a video of some dangerous situation and learn something from it without the actual presence. So an opportunity like this allows you to get insights into a certain situation going through a costly trial and or error process. Vicarious learning examples are viewing real life situations, watching a video, and reading a book or hearing a story. Lastly is the teacher content. In traditional higher education, teacher content interaction occurs both when the teacher prepares a course and when he or she engages in research activities. So with online learning, teacher content interaction is transformed by the development of new ways to present the subject. The need to adapt the content of traditional courses to the particularities and tools of learning has created a new intermediary in the teacher content interaction, the instructional designers. So their intervention on the content and its presentation are essential to creating a learner commitment to the content of the online courses. In other words, to allow meaningful learner content teacher content. To teach all the students according to today's standards, teachers need to understand subject matter deeply and flexible so that they can help students to create useful cognitive maps, relate one idea to another, and address misconceptions. teachers need to see how ideas connect across fields and to everyday life. This kind of understanding provides a foundation for pedagogical content knowledge that enables teacher to make the ideas accessible to others.
Good afternoon, class. I am teacher Aryan, and now we will have a storytelling. Are you excited? Very good. Now let's start. This story is all about the teaching in an online learning environment. Are you familiar with this? Very good. Before we start, let me ask you this question. How is online teaching different from traditional classroom teaching? Yes, honey? Very good. The online model emphasizes an interactive learning environment designed to stimulate dialogues between instructor and students and among students to themselves. We have 4 teaching in an online learning environment. First is the virtual learning environment. Second, the community of inquiry. Third, learning management system. Fourth, the classroom management in a virtual learning environment. Okay, now let's proceed to a virtual learning environment, or also known as VLE. This designs space for a teaching and learning. For some, virtual conjures up an artificial world that replaces real life. But virtual learning environments neither replace classroom nor existing educational practice. A virtual learning environment is an online system that allows education materials to be transmitted through internet to transfer knowledge from organization to employee or a teacher to a student. The next teaching in online learning environment is the community of inquiry, or also known as COI. This model describes how learning takes place for a group of individual learners through the educational experience to occurs at the intersection of social, cognitive, and teaching process. It simply defined, the community of inquiry model is a group of individuals who collaboratively engage in a purposeful critical discourse and reflection to construct personal meaning and confirm mutual understanding. It is an educational community of inquiry. Next teaching on online learning environment is the Learning Management System, or also known as LMS. A learning management system is an online integrated software used for creating, delivering, tracking, and reporting educational courses and outcomes. It can be used to support traditional face-to-face instruction, as well as blended or hybrid and distance learning environments. As an online course organizer, LMS provides tools and resources to help teachers design, develop, manage, and deliver online courses. The last teaching in online learning environment is the classroom management in a virtual learning environment. In your earlier lesson, you learned that synchronous communication is one type that requires real time. In online learning, this usually takes place in a chat room. The teacher creates a chat time for a class, and where class discussion is conducted on a specific topic and normally given in advance to the students. To conduct synchronous communication requires a set of skills on the part of online teachers. Okay, class, did you enjoy our storytelling for today? Very good!
And that's all for today, class. Goodbye and thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Patricia May Salaba, and this is my presentation. Enjoy watching.
Hey there, how are you? You know what? I have something to tell you. Do you want to hear something cool about instructional design and online course development? Well then, hear this. Teachers are just like architects, engineers, and other professionals are designers. If architects design houses and buildings, engineers design roads and bridges. So, what do teachers design? Teaching calls for planning and designing. In principle, no teacher enters a classroom without knowing what to teach and how to teach. The questions what to teach involves the mastery of the subject matter. On the part of the teacher, it entails having enough knowledge and understanding of the content. The questions on how to teach focuses on the strategies, methods, and the selections of instruction materials that can best deliver the content. And do you know that since technology is emerging in 21st century, teaching with technology calls for the understanding of the key principles in instructional design in the process of preparing instructional plans and in develop instructional materials intended for both classroom-based and online delivery. Now let me tell you what is instructional designs. There are many ideas that define instructional designs, such as the following. From the four definition of instructional design, let us look into the key concept that can make our understanding of ideas simple so that we can translate them in actual practice. Instructional design is a systematic process, which means that it follows a procedural or sequential approach. It involves application of theories and principles in learning. Hence, it focuses on the act of learning and understanding of how people learn. As you can see, I have a lot to tell. Do you want to hear more? Okay, great. Let's talk about the instructional design models. Instructional design comes in various models, while there are several models of instructional design. However, and for the purpose of your present course in educational technology, let us focus our attention on the basic and simple ID models intended for teachers and novice designers. The ID model that stands for analysis, design, develop, implement, and evaluate. The ADDIE model, instructional design model, is perhaps the most popular and widely accepted ID model. This is the best known ID model and commonly used in education. Now watch this.
The foundation of the instructional design process is the ADDIE process. ADDIE is made up of 5 steps: analyze, design, develop, implement, and evaluate. The first step is analyze. In this first step, it's necessary to identify the problem that you'll be providing a solution for, as well as identifying learning goals, your learners and their needs, and the time frame for the entire development process. The second step is design. In this step, the learning goals are transformed into clear learning objectives. The content is decided upon by sketching out storyboards and wireframes, and scripts are written for any videos or voiceovers. The third step is develop. In this step, the storyboards and wireframes are used to help create the actual content that will be used in the module. It's at this stage when videos and voiceovers are recorded and edited as well. The fourth step is implement. In this step, the completed course or instructional activity is implemented in a classroom for students to use. This can be a pilot test or the actual launch of the course or instructional activity. The fifth and final step is evaluate. In this step, data is collected and reviewed. This is where you find out if the problem you are trying to resolve is in fact resolved due to the course or instructional activity that you implemented. It's at this stage that you might choose to revise your course or instructional activity due to the feedback and data from the implementation. The ADDIE process is widely used by instructional designers and is a useful process when creating almost any part of curriculum, big or small. Each step is a critical part of the process and helps the next step be successful.
In summary, teaching online requires careful planning, while technology are there to drive online learning. The teacher remains the most effective medium for delivering instruction. However, this calls for enough time and planning and creativity in designing online course delivery. Understanding the principle of instructional design can help you prepare not only your instructional plan, but also in developing and producing online instructional resources. So how's that? It's cool, right? I can tell you more next time. But for today, that's all I could share to you. Bye-bye!